Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for today's session, PBI 10 Dataviz Contest Kickoff. My name is Anna. I'm an event planner for Reactor, joining you from Redmond, Washington. Before we start, I do have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. Keep an eye on that chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions for our moderators to answer. Our session is recorded. It will be available to view on demand right here on the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel within 24 to 48 hours. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our speakers for today. Shannon and Elena, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi.
Hi, Anna. Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone for joining. We are so happy to have you here. We are going to talk today all about our upcoming data visualization contest that we are doing as a part of Power BI's 10th birthday. So happy birthday to Power BI, and thanks to each and every one of you for being a part of our community for 10 years or for 1 year. Thanks for being here. Let's start with some quick introductions and then we will jump into the content. My name is Shannon Lindsay, and I am on the Microsoft Fabric community team, which is the fun team at Microsoft. I'm based in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I have the absolute pleasure of hanging out with you all on the regular and just having fun with Power BI and Fabric. And I would love to introduce our presenter for today, Elena. Elena, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, letting us know a little bit about who you are and where you're dialing in from.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Shannon. Hi, Anna. And hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I was so excited about this. So yeah, thank you for having me. Just a brief intro about me. So my name is Elena. I live in Vienna, Austria. This is not my home. I had to put it out there. And yes, so I am a BI or a Dataviz and UX consultant. I am a blogger and a speaker. You can find me on moonstory.design or on LinkedIn, whichever you prefer. And since January this year, I'm also Microsoft MVP for that data platform. So yeah, I'm super excited to share my part of the Dataviz contest or my tips for the Dataviz contest. So yeah, back to you, Shannon.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I'd love to add, Elena was one of our judges for the first ever Power BI Data Visualization World Championships. So Elena is incredibly familiar with how these contests work, in addition to her design expertise. So we're super lucky to have her here today. And speaking of the Power BI Data Visualization World Championships, we do want to make sure that everyone knows this session is live and interactive. If you have any questions at all, please go ahead and drop those in the chat. We are lucky enough to have two of our finalists for the previous contest that we ran, the Power BI Data Viz World Championships. We have two celebrities in the Data Viz world, Injay and Lakshmi, on the line. They are here to answer your questions. And we also have my fabulous colleague, Pam, in the chat. So if you have questions, if you're looking for links, you can just drop those in the chat and we will get to those as soon as we can. I doubt there's anything that Injay and Lakshmi cannot answer, but if there is, Elena and I will be happy to take them. So thank you so much. Oh, Elena, we have something here. It says to open immediately. Should we open this?
Yeah, sure. Oh my God, I'm surprised.
Okay. There's something happening here. I see Henry Owl. And he is inviting us to Power BI's 10th birthday party. So we are now exactly 1 month out from the official birthday, and we're using this opportunity to kick off our contest. So please follow this link here, aka.ms/PBI10. to register for updates so that you can stay updated with everything that's going on with the birthday celebrations. We're going to be celebrating all year long, so you won't miss out if you're not able to attend the actual party itself. But this is a big moment for Power BI, and we're super excited to have you here. So join us, bring your friends, let people know, and all of us here on the line will be there. One other just quick announcement that we wanted to make, along with Power BI's 10th birthday, we are offering a 50% discount for the certification exams that align to Power BI. And those are the PL300, which is the Power BI Data Analyst Associate Certification. Say that 10 times fast. And then the DP600, which is the Analytics Engineer Associate certification. So they are both related to Power BI. The offer does expire at the end of August. So if you're looking for something to do this summer, grab this offer, get your certification. Now, something that I am really looking forward to, because our friend Elena is hosting us in her host city, is we are coming up on the second annual Fabric Community Conference in Europe. And as you may or may not know, Power BI is a part of Microsoft Fabric. It's one of the many children. And we are going to be celebrating the birthday live in person in Vienna. So if you are in or near Europe, we'd love for you to join us. We have a €200 discount. And with all of this being said, we will be hosting the second ever Power BI Data Visualization World Championships live on stage in Vienna. And I really hope to see you all there. I know I'll be seeing Elena, and we're super excited for that. Okay, so with that, those are our announcements. If anyone has questions or need links, please feel free to drop those in the chat. And we are going to jump into the content for today. So what we wanted to do is make sure that for this contest, we really lay out exactly what the contest is going to be. And we want to give a fair shot for everyone that wants to participate to be able to join us. So if you've participated in our contest in the past, this one is going to be a little bit different and hopefully more accessible to everyone. So today we are going to split this presentation into two. I'm going to start and just give a little bit of an overview about the contest. What is the data that we're looking at? How do you navigate the semantic model? And then how do you submit your entry? And then the real meat of the presentation today, the star of the show, Elena is going to take us into some Dataviz tips. And she's going to talk about what you need to do in your report to perform well and to win this contest, or at least to be happy with your contributions. So I'm going to jump into the contest overview, but before I do that, Elena, and am I missing anything on what we're going to cover today?
I think that was it, no?
Okay, fabulous. Let's jump in. All right, so we have a blog post that explains everything that's going on with the contest. You can find that using this QR code or using the link here. So it is aka.ms/pbi10/Dataviz Contest. And essentially that is just a singular blog post that talks about what we're doing here today. So as many people know, we are here to celebrate this 10th birthday party. And what we're doing is really just celebrating a decade of transformation. The data set that we're going to be using and the data that you all are going to be pulling, if you'd like, is talking about 10 years of change. What's happened over the last 10 years? You're going to have the opportunity to use a starter file that contains a semantic model, or you can amend that starter file by adding your own data, or you can bring your own data all together. So we have lots of different options for lots of different people. And I do think there might be bonus points for Henry the Owl jumping out of a cake in your Power BI report. So who can participate? Who is this for? This contest is for everyone. What we are going to do this time around that is different from other contests we've had in the past is we're actually going to have two distinct judging categories. Now, this is the first time we're doing this, so we'll have to see how it goes. But what we're going to try to do is, if you would consider yourself a beginner, if you've been using Power BI for a year or less, maybe you're just getting started, we're going to have a separate category for you because we want you to have a chance to win. I'd love to know in the chat if folks can just put a little message of how many years have you been using Power BI? I'd love to see just kind of the variance that we have, because I would imagine we have some tweens in here, some people who've been using it for all 10 years, which includes me. And then we probably also have some folks that are new, and we really welcome you to this community. So thanks for joining us. So beginners, we're going to have a separate category for you all to win. And then anyone else, you are all now advanced. Congratulations. Anyone with more than 1 year of experience is going to have a distinct category as well. And it looks like we have some huge variation in the chat. I also see some people in the chat who were finalists in previous contests. So if you were a finalist in a previous contest and you want to identify yourself, feel free. I feel like we can connect and help each other with the contest. So that brings us to the next point on the slide, which is, can I collaborate? And the answer is yes. We want this contest to be collaborative. So if you would like to make a post in our forums that says, hey, this is what I'm thinking for my first draft. Does anyone have any feedback? Or you want to put that up on Reddit and get people's unfiltered opinions, you are more than welcome to. You can also participate in this contest as a team. So if you have a small Dataviz department at your company and you all would like to go in on this together, please do. The more the merrier. And as we all know, the more diverse opinions, the better the report's going to be. So please take this opportunity to collaborate. We also want this to mirror what we're doing in the real world. And hopefully when we're working on reports for our end users, we're getting feedback, we're talking things through, we're iterating, and we want this to be all the same. So please collaborate. We would love to see that. All right, so what are the key dates? When are things happening? You all are here with us. Thank you so much for being here today. If you're watching the recording, today is June 24th, although it is Tuesday. So we have a typo on the slide. Today is Tuesday, where I am in the US. The submission deadline for this contest is going to be Tuesday, July 16th. So that gives us 3 weeks to work and polish our data model and also to get our visuals built for submission. The submission deadline is going to be 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so with that, if you submit your entry in the gallery after the deadline, unfortunately, we won't be able to score your entry. Quick note about this, I would recommend that you try to submit at least a couple hours in advance. We do have some pre-moderation in our gallery just to ensure that everything stays above board. So you may see that your entry is stuck in a moderation queue. If you get your entry into the queue before the timeline, even if you don't see it live, you've made it in time. So no stress about that. We are then going to announce the winner 1 month from today on Power BI's official birthday. We will also include that in a fun live stream that we're doing with our very own Power BI celebrities, Adam and Patrick of Guy in a Cube. So I'm excited to see who the winner is, just as much as you all are, and we will be doing that at our birthday party. I do see a question in the chat asking about what is the link for beginners. Everyone is going to find the information you need in the same place, and that's going to be on the blog post. And from there, you will be able to find the GitHub site where the data set is located. And Gloria, thank you so much for that question, because that brings us into the next section of the presentation. So for those of us that consider ourselves beginners, or even for those of us that are advanced, we are providing a starter data set and semantic model for you to use. You can use this, you do not have to use this, but it's here for you if you'd like. So if data modeling is not your forte and you really want to focus on the front end and the design, we have this all set up ready for you to go. So what is the data that we're going to be looking at? Like I mentioned before, we're looking at things that have changed over the last 10 years. And I found a really interesting data set on Our World in Data, where we can look at the adoption of communications technology, essentially, over the last 10 years. The data set itself actually goes all the way back to 1960. So if you are in the model and you see that you'd like to include more data, feel free. There are no limits here. But the challenge itself, the brief, is to stick to the last 10 years of data. And we're looking at usage of landline telephones. I'm curious, I wonder, do people still have landline phones in your homes? Does anyone have that? I do not. But okay, so we're looking at landline telephones. We're also looking at mobile adoption, and we are looking at internet access and usage. So I believe, just as a guess, if we're looking at trends, landline usage is going to go down and mobile and internet are probably going up, if I had to guess, but we will take a look at the data in just a moment and check it out. So with that being said, we are going to jump into Power BI and take a look at the data. We have provided for you a starter file. Now, there is a lot going on the screen right now, lots of words. We're not going to read through every single bit of this, but what I do want to point out is that we have 4 tabs here. So we have a README tab, which tells you all about how to use this file. We have a data source tab, and on this tab, this is the appropriate citation for the data that we are using in this report. We then have a tabular tab, and in this tab, what I did is I just did a very quick table of these are the data points that we are looking at. So if this is your first time ever touching Power BI, you have somewhere to start. You can take this, you can look at it. We have some fun things in here like flags, so you're able to plot some pretty data on the page. And you can see here that we are just looking at data over time by country. And we also have the region in here. And then the 3 indicators of interest that we're looking at that are standardized are the landlines per 100 people, mobile subscriptions per 100 people, and internet users per 100 people. So this is our starting point. A couple of other things I want to do before I hand it over to Elena is just to take us through how to use this file. So the first thing that I'd like to show you all is, if you are coming in here and you'd like to use the data as is, you do not need to do anything to the file itself. It is ready for you to work on it. The data is stored in the back end of Power BI. It's using something called import mode. There's a copy of the data stored there. And all you need to do to use it is to start pulling it into the visuals. So let's take a look at the data that is here. You'll see over here on the right-hand side of Power BI, we have this table view. This is where you can take a look at the data. And what we have going on here is you can see we have 4 tables. So we have what is called a measures table. This is where our calculations are living. We have a countries table, and this contains our country codes, the country name, the flag URL, the region and the subregion, and then we have our data table. Oh, and you know what? Scroll down. We also have a table that contains all of the years of data. So if I select the data table and I want to see, okay, what is in here, you can see here that I have a table that shows me we've got all the countries, the codes, the year, so on and so forth. Beyond this, so now you can see we've got our 1, 2, 3, 4 tables here. Over here on the left-hand side in Power BI Desktop, we can also see how these tables are related. So what we've done here is created for you a data model where we are looking at the data but over time. So our time table is years and by country. This is broken into something called a fact table, which is our data table, and dimension tables, which are our time dimension and our countries dimension. The main thing you need to know is that these tables are all connected. So whatever you plot on the page is going to work seamlessly together as though it were all in one table, which is really, really nice. So that is all I'm going to show you about the contents of the report itself. Just one other quick note, if you're interested in how do I start plotting these visuals on the page, I also created this trend tab here for you, where you can see, for here, we're just looking at small multiples by region, and we're looking at technology adoption. So as suspected, landlines are staying kind of flat or going down. Internet users and mobile subscriptions are increasing. So this is just a little sneak peek into the data itself, and we wanted to give everyone a place to start. Now, for those of you who have been using Power BI for more than a year, or you'd like to add additional data to this, you think this is really interesting, but I'd actually like to add information about population. I'd like to add information about housing. This doesn't give me a full picture. I'd like to see some more. What we've done for you is we've actually set this up so that you can use what is called a parameter to switch the data source. And there are instructions for how to do that on the very first tab, the README tab. So all you're going to have to do is when you come in here, essentially you need to go to the data source and you need to download the files of interest. And then once they are stored locally on your machine, all you have to do here is change the file path, and it's going to update everything for you. The reason you want to do that is because if you are trying to work in Power Query, but you do not have the data stored locally on your computer, you're not going to be able to do anything in there. And I didn't want to stop anyone from doing anything. So what we're going to be able to do is you can download that data itself, you can bring it in, and you can adjust the data in Power Query, model the data, add data, do anything you'd like. So I'm actually going to take us just one step back here, because you might be asking, okay, this is cool, but like, where do I get this data? We have a GitHub repo that we've created for this contest. And in here, there's some additional information about the data set. This is also where you're going to find the starter file. So if you're brand new and you're like, okay, I just want this starter file and I want to start building, all you need to do is come here to the GitHub link, which Lakshmi just dropped in the chat. So jump in here, and all you're going to do is come over to this right here, PBI10 starter file. Go ahead and select it. And this is, of course, looks like nothing can happen here because you cannot see a Power BI file in GitHub. That's fine. You're going to go to this little ellipsis menu in the top right-hand corner where it says More File Actions, and you're going to download the PBIX. It's as simple as that. Okay, so after you download the PBIX, if you'd like to take it one step further and you'd like to get the data files, what you're going to do here is you're actually going to download each of these data files one by one. So you're going to start here at Our World in Data. You're going to come to this website. This is such a beautiful website. They do such a good job here. And the way to navigate this website is you're going to see here just below the map, there's a little download button. Go ahead and select that. That's going to bring up this download box. You're going to select data, and you're going to download the full data. What this is going to do is it's going to download a zipped file for you into your downloads. And in order to access the files within the zipped files, you're going to need to extract them, unzip them, and store them somewhere on your machine. So this is the data. So you'll notice here, we'll just go back to our GitHub repo. You'll notice that there are actually 4 different required data sets that are downloads. And then this country code mapping is actually not a download. This is a connection directly to a public GitHub link. So you don't need to do anything here. So it's those 4 data sets, and we will start a forum on the community site. So if people are struggling with this part, we'll work on it together. We'll make sure everybody has the resources you need. So the way it then works is you're going to download the starter file, you're going to update the parameter, and then you're going to be able to work in Power Query to adjust your data. So let's take a look at that very quickly. You can see here on the ribbon, on the home tab of the ribbon in Power BI Desktop, which is where I've jumped back to, we have an option to transform data here. I'm going to select transform data, and there are a couple of different ways you can do this. The easiest way is just to edit parameters. So I'm going to jump to the edit parameters dialog box and look at this. Here you can just put in your local folder path. So whatever that looks like for you on your computer, you're going to drop in your local folder path, and that is the path where you have the files, the data files themselves, which are CSVs, stored. From here, once you update that, you will then be able to jump into Power Query by selecting Transform Data on the ribbon. And this will show you, we now have our tables that we saw in the front end of the model. We have our countries table, our years table, and our data table. So let's say that Elena wants to use this starter file, and she does not want the years just limited to the last 10 years. She'd actually rather see data for the full entire data set. What she has the ability to do here is to come into the steps that have already been done. And you can see here that all I've done is I've filtered out the data where the year is greater than or equal to 2010. So if Elena wants to come in here and she wants to look at data for the whole kit and caboodle, all she needs to do is select the little gear icon here. She can come and just update this dialog box here and change it to a different year. So that is a whirlwind tour of how to use this starter file. I'm going to pause for just a moment and see if there are any questions that we'd like to answer that came into the chat. I see a great question in the chat that is there a link to previous competitions for ideas and inspiration? I'm going to jump back to the browser and let's just navigate there together because I like this question a lot. So if you go to aka.ms/community contests, you will notice here we have a beautiful landing page for you where you can see some things that have happened in the past. So here you can see that in our Power BI Dataviz World Championships, these were our 4 finalists. So you can click into these and you can see their visualizations. We also have this lovely tab here at the bottom where you can get inspired. So you can page through these and see different ideas of how people have used Power BI to visualize data. And then last but not least, I think probably the thing I would like to do the most is to jump into this browse entries here. This will take you to the contest galleries. That's where everything is located for you to look at. And here, particularly if you look at the featured tab, these are all of our winners and our judges' favorites. So I think this is a really nice place to start. And with that, I'm going to jump back to the presentation very quickly. I'm over time, so I'm going to just fly through this here. I'm going to very
No worries,
quickly...
Shannon, take your time.
Okay, good. What you have is super important, so I want to make sure we get to it. So
I know, no worries.
Okay, after you've built your report and you're ready to submit, if you go into that contest gallery, which this should look familiar, this is where we just were, there is a button to submit to the contest. You must be logged into the community site to submit to the contest. I would encourage everyone on the line, if you are not yet a member of the community, please join today. This will help with making sure that you get through those pre-moderation queues. Join the community as soon as you can so that you can make sure your entry gets in. And then once you submit, you're going to get this form that pops up. And the most important piece of the puzzle here is that you have 2 different options for how to submit. So you can either add a Power BI publish to web URL, which is a URL that you will have if you are working in an established Power BI tenant. If the things I just said do not make sense to you, that is okay. If you do not have a Power BI tenant, you're using Power BI Desktop and it's not licensed, totally fine. Rather than add this publish to web URL, you're simply going to add an attachment here at the bottom. So 2 ways to submit. You can either do the publish to web URL or add your attachment. Go ahead and select publish. If you do not see your entry right away, please don't worry. If it's your first time ever submitting to the gallery, they all have a human review that they go through before they get posted. So once you've clicked publish, your entry is submitted, and then we're ready for judging, and we're ready to see you win and take home the prize. So with that, we are going to jump into the meat and potatoes of this presentation, which is Elena's fabulous design tips. With that, I'm going to hand it over to you, Elena, and I'm going to jump over to the chat.
I wish, Shannon, but yeah, I might be having some issues with my second screen. So maybe you can have or take 1-2 minutes
Sure.
more, and I hope I can take care of this.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all. Lakshmi has a great quick tip in the chat, and she said, do not wait until the last moment to submit. And I like this a lot because like I've mentioned a couple of times, we do have some pre-moderation that happens as you submit to the gallery. And personally, for me, if I don't see my entry, I'm going to worry. Did it get submitted? Am I officially entered? So if you do your submission 1 to 2 days prior to the deadline, you'll then be able to make sure that you can see it live in the gallery. One additional note to add on that is if you attach a PBIX file and you click submit and you then see your submission in the gallery, you're not going to immediately see it embedded on the page. And let me just actually show you what that looks like. You're not going to immediately see this iframe right here that renders your live and interactive report. What we do is we take your file and we then publish it to a Power BI tenant so that your report can render here. So if you submit and you do not see your report rendered here, please do not worry. After everyone submits, we then go through and we upload all of the reports. So a PBIX is plenty, that's great. And then from there, we will make sure it gets published so that people can interact with your report here. And then I think the final piece of the puzzle here is there is plenty of room here on these entries for you to like and to interact with the post. So please comment, let people know what you like, ask people questions for how they did things. This is where we're ready for everyone to engage. Elena, how are you doing? How's your screen?
Coming along. It's better. It's yeah, I think it's gonna work.
Okay, fabulous.
Just 1 sec. Oh, you switched already. All right, let's go with it.
Okay.
Thank you so much for for postponing a bit. And yeah, so as Shannon was saying, all about our Dataviz contest. So last or the beginning of this year, we had the first Dataviz contest, and Shannon was lovely enough to invite me to be one of the judges. And I have to say, I had a lovely time, and I was super flattered to be part of it. And definitely, it was a lot to go through all of these reports. But we were judging. We had multiple rounds going on, and so on. And we kind of noticed a pattern. We have all these amazing reports, or in the sense of all this analysis, right? So many people spend hours and hours and made complicated analysis and great data visualizations, but the whole report, or on the first glance, it would fall flat. So Shannon, you can agree or disagree, but I think, yeah. So we decided to put this thing together. And so I won't be concentrating that much on the Dataviz part and the analysis, because there's so many courses out there, and I think you're all doing a great job. But I want to help you a bit on the front end side. I want to help you with some small tips and tricks that you can do, which are not a lot of effort, but actually they make great impact. So that's why my part of this presentation today will concentrate a bit more on that. So today we'll talk about layout and structure, colors, and accessibility. And first things first, layout and structure. Oh, even my clicker is working. Now we're talking. Can we stay longer? Okay, so first things first. When you think about your pages or your report, you want to think about the things that you're going to put there, right? So make a list or try to put something on, start with handwriting, but you can also use tools, right? So try to put everything together, like every information that you have, and try to think like how you want to organize that information. All right, so try to think how you can organize this in different pages, but also maybe on that one page. And here, just a quick tip. So try to concentrate on the layout. So when you decide what goes into that page, try to create some sort of a layout. So you can use shapes in Power BI to do that, or you can use some external tool, import it as a background, so you choose how you do that. But what's important here is that if you notice, so this is just something that I quickly put together. So we have this Dataviz championship, right? And we have this kind of a structure. So this is where you start. I'm not saying your report should look like this. Bear with me. So this is where you start. You organize or you split the page into multiple columns and multiple rows. So you create this sort of a grid and you build from there. I'm not saying this is the only thing that you need to have, right? So you can mix and match. You can create like these top KPI views, or beneath you can have visuals. So you can mix and match these kind of boxes, right? So you can merge them horizontally, merge them vertically, whichever you prefer, whatever works for you. The thing is, like, try to have things aligned. Like, alignment is one of these like little or smallest things that you can do, but have a great impact. And that also goes in the other direction, right? So if something is misaligned, like immediately it screams in my eye. I don't know how to say this, but I'm sure I'm not the only one out there who notices that. So anyway, whichever layout you choose, like, try to have things aligned. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying this is the perfect layout. All right, just try to have things organized and aligned. And as an example, I actually have Jonathan's report here. Jonathan, yeah, I love this one. And I actually love this part of the quiz that he did for the national parks in the US. Why am I showing you this? This is not really the classical layout structure, right? It's not a classical report, so to say. But he was one of our finalists, and he's actually the one that won the Dataviz championship in Vegas. And the thing is, if you take a look, like, he still has this this alignment. Okay, is it just checking if I have any? Can you still see my screen?
Yes, we can see that PowerPoint.
Okay, that's great, because my monitor is saying that is connecting. But if you can see it, I'm fine with that.
We can see it, yeah.
Perfect. So here we can see it's not a classical report structure, but things are still aligned. You can clearly see there's a line, like things are vertically aligned, horizontally aligned, and so on. We even have like this even spacing between these small cards, or these 4 cards, right? And I'm telling you this because it's not like one solution fits all, or there's no one way or one right way to do things, right? So as long as you create a structure and you keep with it, so you stay consistent with it, it doesn't matter. We're going to love it. So yeah, that's why Jonathan's report. So make sure that you have this layout and structure, right? So this means that you need to have, or it's nice to have, like, consistent spacing between the visuals. So you have these margins that are always equal. I mean, in terms of your structure, right? So that leads me to the next part. As long as, so we have this white space or space between visuals, you have space within visuals or inside the visuals. And this is where padding comes along. So I want you to take a look at these two charts over here. Can you feel a difference? Like, how does the first one feel and how does the second one feel? I'll try to take a look at the chat while I'm asking you this. I'll be super honest, like with the stream and the comments and the chat is a bit hard to follow everything. But yeah, so try to keep that or to add more space, you know, treat that white space as an active element. So this is what usually people say, oh, you know, it's like, there's this white space, we want to use that to add more stuff there. That's not the case, right? So we need to treat white space as an active element and we need to give it the space that it deserves. So the left one, I feel like, you know, these titles are kind of slapped against the border. Whenever I see this, I'm like, okay, you know, this is the basic Power BI. Maybe, you know, when you put a visual, it looks like this. I want to see that you have thought about this, you know, like you have thought about giving your visuals this space to breathe. And how you can find this? Well, you click on a visual and you go to the format pane. What I usually like to do is like, I just search for padding because it's usually easier to find it, but you can find it under size and style. So try to give at least, I would say 10 pixels, but I want to avoid mentioning numbers because, you know, it all depends on what's your canvas size and what's the pixels that you're using. So I'll try to be, you know, a bit mindful about that. But if you see this QR code on the top, that's actually leading to one of my blog posts, as we said in the beginning, that I have this blog called Moon Story. So you can read a bit more about padding and why we need to add that space. All right, so layout and structure means that you want to think about the things that you're putting on the page, that you're organizing the page around the information. You're trying to split the information, you know, maybe use multiple pages, like try to organize content logically as well. So not only visually, but also, you know, try to have that structure. So try to think about the things that you're putting on a page and having this layout structure and white space. And the thing is, you know, now that we understood where things go, we want to color them, right? So we want to use colors. And lately I'm seeing, especially, you know, if you're just starting out with Power BI, I get it. It's totally normal that you are not aware that maybe a lot of colors is not the best idea to use. So try to, oops, I just realized I didn't go to my next slide. So try to think about colors, all right? So don't put all the colors of the rainbow there. And when we're talking about colors, I want you to know there's a lot of color theory going on behind it. So why or which colors go well together and which colors don't go well together. So just a brief introduction to color theory is this color wheel. You know, we have all our colors, you know, this is a very simplified version. So of course, it's a lot more complicated. We have all these colors, you know, and in between and gradients and so on. But if we take a look at this wheel, we have these primary colors, which are yellow, blue, and red. And then we have the secondary colors that are green, orange, violet. And then it goes on and on, like tertiary colors and so on. Why am I telling you this? Because I want you to think, like, to be critical around the colors that you're using. And it's totally fine if you don't know which colors go well together, because probably even I don't know which colors go well together. But there's a lot of tools out there that help you find a color palette that is harmonious, that kind of looks well on the eyes. And as an example here, so maybe some of the moderators can put this in the chat, maybe like make it easier for you to find it. So we have these two tools that I picked here. We have color.adobe.com and we have colors.co. So here, so on Colors Adobe, I'm just giving you these tools as an example, all right? So if you can find other tools, it's totally fine. If you can come up with your color palettes, that's also great. But just as an idea, like to get you started. Color Adobe is great if you want to find colors, like to generate color palettes, but you can also search for color palettes that are out there. And on colors.co, I use it for finding trending color palettes and some other tools that are there. So I would say if you don't know these tools, like really spend some time exploring them. It's totally worth it. Maybe if you have any other ideas, like some other tools if you're using for colors, I would love to hear your thoughts. Yeah, company style guide, yeah, I can see that. That's also fine. Just be careful when the client says, yeah, we want this red and we want it everywhere. Try to be a bit more, try to think about those things and maybe try to find a color palette that goes well with that red or green, whatever color it is. Just try to neutralize it a bit, not make it as strong. So something that I haven't mentioned here, or I haven't put it as a separate slide, is try not to put a lot of colors. So when it comes to colors, honestly, less is more. So try to use color as to guide your user's attention, or like to emphasize important things. But all in all, like colors should be, blending in with the background, especially, like you want to have neutral backgrounds. You don't want to have a lot of things going on in your background. Then you have like the visual background, which should be something like white or very, off-white, or something that is very neutral and doesn't come in the front. And then you have like colors that we're using for different charts and so on. But try to think about color as something that you use for emphasis. So when you see a report, like let the color guide your user's eye. So when we're talking about colors, there's also other things that we need to take into account. And since we are talking about data reports and dashboards and using color in that sense, we cannot not talk about accessibility, right? So first, when it comes to accessibility, I want to say thank you so much, Shannon, for including this as part of the Dataviz championship. Like really, I think it was like a third of the points that we had.
Yeah.
I think you really raised the awareness around accessibility. And I know when you're starting out with Power BI, it's so many things to think about and so many things to take into account. And maybe accessibility is not something that you learn right away, but also is one of these things that is like so important that when you start thinking like that in the beginning, then it's like, it's you're automatically thinking about it later. So we're setting, our habits in the beginning. So if you learn in the beginning to think about accessibility, then you'll be better off in the long run. And I know this, why? Because also I was like you. In the beginning, when I started with Power BI, I had no idea what accessibility is. Now, accessibility, I learned most about it when I did a UX design course. And maybe just a brief intro to what accessibility is making sure that, every tool, every product is accessible, or in the other words, is usable, but by a lot of people or by everyone, regarding of their abilities or disabilities. So just as we want to make tech inclusive, we want everyone to be able to use, tech and so on. We want everyone to be able to use our report. So that's why accessibility is super important. And I'm sure it's going to stay super important in the next rounds of the championship. So try to pay attention here.
Going away.
So probably one of the easiest things that you can do when you're submitting your Dataviz report is actually thinking about tab order. Now, what is tab order? So when we have users that navigate reports differently, right? So not everyone is using a mouse to navigate a report and so on. And I know that because, I have my partner and he's one of those people that he's using keyboard navigation for everything. So he's sometimes my checker when it comes to reports. I mean, I can always check that on my own. I'm just making sure it works. But anyway, so we have people that are using keyboard navigation to navigate around the report. And to make that easier for them, we need to make sure that as we click on tab, when we have this opened report, that we have the order that they're expecting. So they don't want to see something like this. All right, so sometimes, I want to check what are the things, or what's the order that in which I added things to my page, and sometimes it looks all messy like this. And how it's supposed to be? Well, it's supposed to be in our natural reading order, all right? And it matters like in which language we're talking about, but when it comes to English, if you're submitting a report in English, this would be in a natural order. So we want to make sure that we are keeping that order of things on our page in that natural order. And again, I have Jonathan's report over here, just to tell you that, sometimes this can go a bit different. All right, so what do we do here? Would you say this is a classical Z pattern of how we read and scan things? Well, probably not, right? Because like when I look at this, I see like two separate parts. So if I was to navigate this, I would probably do something like this, like split it, like artificially split my screen in two and have like two Z patterns when I'm making the order of my, putting the order of my visuals on the page. And I'm going to show you in a moment how you can do this. But just make sure that you're following, or the visuals are following this, this order. And here I have, so like make sure it's in the natural reading order, and this is where you can find it. So try to go in the view selection, and then I'm sure most of you are familiar with the layer order, because that's something that we're using most of the time, but just click on that tab order and just try to organize the things, in the order that they appear. And one more thing, when we are talking about this, like make sure that you are putting the shape as hidden. So you don't want to land on a shape when someone is viewing a report. They want to see the content. So that means people want to land on the text and so on, but you don't really want to land on a shape or a decorative element when we are navigating around. And one other thing that is kind of easy, but sometimes it could, it might sound like a lot if you're adding it in the end, but most of the times I'm using alternative text just as I'm adding the visuals. So alternative text means that a screen reader, or if someone is using a screen reader, would read this information as extra to the visual that they're seeing. So instead of them, or on top of that title and subtitle and type of visual that is going to be read, you can add this alternative text so we can make sure that people understand what we wanted to say. And here we have a static type and a dynamic type, and you can find that under format, properties, and we have this alt text or alternative text. Now, if you write here, that would be a static text. If you use the function, that means that it would be dynamic. So for that, you need to use a measure, you need to create a dex measure, but it's fine if you're just starting out. I can understand. Just try to make sure that you're adding some kind of text here. Be mindful though that if it's static and you want to say something that's like changing over time, or if we had like the biggest sales, let's say in April, but that change in between, so make sure that you're not putting this information that it can change in between as a static. And I started talking about this in the beginning, and that was the color contrast. So I just realized that maybe my animation was the other way around. So color contrast is one of the first things that you can use to make sure that text is readable and accessible by everyone. So there's this web content accessibility guidelines that we are using. I mean, there were made for web, but reports and dashboards are kind of similar, so we're using them. So we need to have 4.5 to 1 text to background color contrast ratio. Now, this is also another thing that you don't need to know, but there's a bunch of tools available online that can help you find the contrast. And one of them is the Adobe Color, which I already mentioned. You just need to go to the accessibility tools and then contrast checker. And here you can put the hex codes of your colors, and you can see that here in this case we have a fail. Why? Because we have a small text and it's not good enough contrast. So if we increase this to at least 4.5, then means that we would have good enough contrast. And now, Shannon, I know we're out of time, so that's why I cut it short here, and I just added this accessibility tools and checklists by the community. So something extra for you that you can dive into. So shamelessly, I put my blog post or my accessibility checklist that I use for my clients. And you can find that on my blog post. And I also have the accessibility checker by Steph, who's also amazing. And I think this is a great tool if you want to automate things, and you can just briefly check if your report is accessible or not. And I can see we're 5 minutes to the end. So Shannon, with that, I'm gonna give it back to you, but maybe just as an ending thought. I know I was concentrated more on the design and the front end part. The thing is, don't forget that this is how design is, how it looks and feels, but it's also how it works. So I'm just giving you the head start for you to not fail this easy part, so to say, but then of course you need to do all that analysis.
Yes, those are such great tips. Thank you so much, Elena. It's really clear that you have looked at hundreds of entries and are sharing all your best tips as you've gone through. Thank you so much for highlighting the accessibility pieces. That is something that I personally am really passionate about. I also had the privilege of working on accessibility on Power BI for a time. That was my whole job, which is really great. And I think it really just can't be understated that data visualization is not accessible by nature, right? It's visual, which makes things really tough. But if folks have had an opportunity to play around with a screen reader or use tab order, use keyboard navigation to get around this data viz, we actually can make it very usable for everyone. So thank you so much for emphasizing that piece. I also just love the examples you showed with the padding in particular and the colors, being able to compare and contrast. And it's so easy to see by looking at your examples what is good or easier to read compared to what is more difficult. I think when I'm first plotting those, when I'm first building, I have a really hard time seeing that. I have to build and then I have to take a step back and say, okay, how does this look? But I could easily just take your examples and implement that now. And I think that would improve everything I do. So I'm going to do that. I hope other people will as well.
I hope so too.
So thank you. With that being said, we are going to wrap up. If you have any questions that haven't been answered, please feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll see if we can take them. We just want to remind people that we've got some can't miss opportunities coming up. So we have, of course, our birthday party, and all of these links are accessible via the short link or via the QR code. We will see you there. Elena and I, Elena, Pam, Injay, Lakshmi, all of us will be there. We are offering our 50% discount code for certifications that are associated with Power BI. We have a fun super users program that we have not talked about yet, but if you're interested in this, you can check out aka.ms/fabric superuser and join that community. And then of course, we have our Dataviz contest where we will make sure that all entries are in, and the contest winners will be announced on the 24th of July, which is Power BI's official birthday party. So thank you all so much. This is incredible. Henry the Owl is joining us here. Hopefully no one sees Henry the Owl when you're building, because that's what you see when you have an error. But Henry is here to help us judge and to help us with the contest. Thank you all so much. We will continue to address any questions in the chat as we go. But for now, I'd like to thank you all for spending this hour with us. A huge thank you to our moderators. Thank you, Elena, so much for your time. And we will see you all over on the community site, and we can't wait to see what you have to build. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So thanks everyone for joining. And if you continue to have any other questions, feel free to reach out. We're happy to help.